I don't know about you, but I personally love to cut models. There is something meditative about this. Listening to good music or a podcast and slowly replenishing your own collection of miniatures. Of course, due to the fact that the cutting process itself is long, I rarely show in my videos in fact the finished product, but just show the cover of a set of miniatures, so to speak. If I'm write separately the process of cutting, the process of creating the video will take another day or two. Also, every time I sit down to cut a set, I actually steal time from myself because I don't create illustrations. It took me 5 full minutes to create one of models that you see on the screen, and that's despite the fact that I'm working pretty fast. There are 14 patterns on one sheet, which means I have to cut continuously for at least 1 hour and a half to complete one page. If we talk about a small army of 40 to 50 models, then in general it takes 7 to 8 hours straight, or 2 or 3 days of easy slicing in your spare time. Still much faster than building a plastic army with assembly, priming and painting with expensive paints and thin brushes. Usually the plastic army gathers from a few weeks to months or goes to so-called pile of shame. But besides me, there are another people who lack visual acuity or dexterity due to age restrictions. For example, I've talked to many amateur historians who are usually of a respectable age or don't have much time, and there are a lot of people who like the game itself rather than the process of assembling or painting. Among the tournament players, there are people who meet the minimum requirements for appearance of models, just to play the most optimal roster. There are people who spend more time on optimization and number theory, or someone creates many similar infantry models, for example for historian battles, and these hobbyists can very quickly lose interest in creating a complete army. So today I will tell you how I significantly accelerated the work with slicing using the cutting plotter Silhouette Portrait 3. Hello everyone, this is Nico from Papercraft channel. First, before I cut the soldiers, I need to make a serious preparations. First, the plotter does not cut the entire area of the sheet, so instead of 14 models with bases, you need to reduce the number models to 12 and remove the stands. I use Photoshop for this, but there are other free programs for this type of work. I also remove the white background because it will greatly simplify our work in the future. The frame you see on the screen is a symbol for boundaries of the A4 sheet where the cutting will take place. I set these limits experimentally, and on my letter with resolution 150 pixels per centimeter, the frame size is 2700 by 3850 pixels. I use this frame only when I placed the whole set, but when I'm ready to send it for slicing, I remove it and leaving only 2 vertical lines along which I will level the workspace. So I delete the white background, save the document as PNG file, which will greatly simplify our further work. We open Silhouette Studio, which is free, and of course it won't install some upgrades. But I won't be do this. But not today. Therefore, we pass. Once the program has started, it already shows the format of the letter, the probable type of paper, and the device that I connected to the PC. Of course, I have repeatedly cut sets through this program, so she immediately recognized me. So cute. Get the file with the Cossacks, and just drag it to the work area. As you can see, the size does not fit. Therefore, I have to manually focusing the red frame sum up to along of the two lines that were made for this very purpose. We add a frame for infrared scanning. We will need it to recognize the boundaries of the sheet and the exact cut. As I understand it, those who make decoupage and application on fabric or monotonous paper do not print the frame, which is obvious. As we zoom in, we can see a thin red lines, unfortunately barely visible on the video. If we working with an image without transparent background, we would have to draw lines manually, which is very inconvenient, especially if your models have a lot of white elements, which in order to not be cut incorrectly must be removed manually, point by point. As soon as we are satisfied, we can send the blank for printing. As a printer, I use the Canon MP 210, which been with me for 14 years. Maybe its resolution is not as high as other more young devices, but it does its job. New workpiece, I always check with a ruler to make sure that the proportions are preserved. The easiest way to measure the length of half base, which should be always 25 mm. As you can see, the proportions are correct. Along with the plotter, there is adhesive mat, without which cutting is impossible. Peel off the smooth pad and you can see the paper leaves some few traces, but the adhesive characteristics are not affected. That's why we put the blank and try to glue the sheets as evenly as possible. Of course, due to infrared scanner, we have a chance for a small error, but not to abuse it. Finally, we come to the part where we talk about the device. We connect, open the lid, turn on the power and fill the mat with glued sheet. To make everything as smoothly as possible, we sure that the black square is opposite to the white bulge to the right of the knife. That's where the scanner is. When the mat with the letter is filled, we can press the send button in the program. Here you can see set the depth of cut and speed. If you use a sheet of paper of 250 grams per square meter, you can copy my settings as you see on the screen. I obtained this data experimentally and it may be differ from yours, so do your own research. After receiving the command, the plotter begin to do his job and fill the room with unique singing. Let's listen to this wonderful musician together. We take the letter from the device and move on to the most pleasant part of whole process, removing the letter from the adhesive mat. You can't even imagine how happy I was when, after 4 unsuccessful attempts, I was able to remove remnants of paper for the first time in such simple way. Every time it brings me incredible pleasure. So after we get rid of a main sheet, we can take turns and to get the models gradually blending the mat. I immediately put a paired size on top on each other so as not to be confused. In the process of slicing, some models were defective. I don't know what exactly causes these mistakes, but from time to time a few random models are cut incorrectly. But since the set is cut in about 40 seconds, I just throw the crippled models following the rest of paper. You can always print more. Since the models are already cut, I take out a knife and make an incision for bending and start gluing models. Since the stands do not fit in the set, I print them separately according to my own principle. Because I usually make models on 25mm bases, I made a whole package of stands as not to think about them each time creating a new set. Literally in 4 minutes, 10 Cossacks are ready to join army. So let's to get some conclusions. The Silhouette Portrait 3 cutting plotter perfectly cut small models. Sometimes there are mistakes with slicing that correlates with high slicing speed. Also, an additional disadvantage for me is that a lot of space on the sheet is just thrown away. Compare 14 models with bases against 12 models without bases. The price is also, let's say, not cheap. There are 3D printers that are cheaper, but all sorts of chemical are not cheap, and a lot of further work with resin fixing, with resin curing, and assembly and painting, and a lot of hassle. And with paper models, you can literally build an army in half a day. I already did that when I able to assemble over 100 models in less than 5 hours for a test game. Unfortunately, due to the fact that I live in Ukraine, I will not even try to offer you my services in making models, but I have a better idea. I have a Patreon page where you can find over 2000 high-quality models for home printing. Of course, you can buy Silhouette Portrait 3 for your home, or find someone from local friends in your country who will make a cut for you. From me you can get the both free kits and extended collections of miniatures for small monthly payments, which in my opinion is quite a good offer for me personally at the moment. Patreon is very important source of both inspiration and income, and literally every one of your donations accelerates release of new sets. I can also make some custom kits depending on your desire. Also subscribe to this channel, follow updates and new useful educational, artistic and hobby videos. Until then, let's meet together in the new video really soon.